Welcome to the top floor. If you are here, you are my peoples. If you are here, you are dope, you are creative, you are everything. If you found this page, you are my tribe. You are a part of me. I am a part of you. And I want to welcome you to TFT, which is the Top Floor Tribe. And I want to introduce myself to all that stumbled and perhaps popped up in your algorithm. And I want to show you how I take things, all kinds of things, and manipulate them and paint and draw and write and just create magic and beautiful things out of some things that are old, some things that are new, some things that have been trashed and waste. Because in this space of being creative, you see the possibilities in any and everything that you touch or you stumble upon. And so there's different methods, as we know, to get to the top floor, right? We gotta crawl, we gotta climb, we get frustrated. There's a lot of different avenues that we take. Our hands get dirty. Everything is imperfect. It's never perfect and it's never pretty, and we're constantly fixing things. But once it's at the top, it's a masterpiece and it's something so beautiful. So I want to welcome you, and I'm so happy you stumbled upon my page. And I am going to show you in different series and different videos, different things, but particular how I take plain white copy paper, all plain, and I create things out of them. So for example, I take this and I create this out of it. And so by creating this type of like vintage, like worn, used paper, and make beautiful, what I call paper journals or gifts, or it's in a category of junk journals. And so I just manipulate white paper and I create this. So for example, for this, I coffee dyed it, I crumbled it up, and I set it outside in the sun, and that's how I got these little burnt like edges, and some of them are ripped because I actually put them into a book and I leave it in this truest form so that it looked like it went through something and it has a story to tell. So this is the example of some of the things I do. The same with this. So I do a lot of coffee dyes. I do tea dyes on paper, as you can see. And this too was like the same. I crinkled it up, and then I will use the coffee dye and I will add other things. So for example, I added curry powder to the coffee dye, and it's like the texture is on there, if you can see it. And so it gives it this like a beautiful texture, and it also smells good. Most of the paper smells like some kind of, it smells like coffee, and it smells like a seasoning. It just smells really good. So I did that with a few of these, and I have used a lot of these. That's why it looks thick, but it's not really thick, because I used a lot of this paper already to create my crafts. And so I'll give you some examples. This was, I think, still tea and coffee mixture. Definitely, I think this one was just tea. And then I take some 3-hole punch paper. This was definitely, I dipped it in, dyed it in coffee, and I just did some kind of painting, white painting on it, just to give it another feel if it was something I would like write on this. So those are a few things that I do. Same with these. These are still coffee dyed. And then I got into adding black ink into the coffee tray, and it started to come out like this, which I really love. I really love how this comes out with the black ink inside of mixed into the coffee dye. I had extras and I was just splatting them, so that's why it looks like this. So these two, I was just dropping some of the black ink on here, or that was left in the tray. And as you can see, like, I waste nothing. So at some point, some are lighter, some are not. This was actually, you can't really tell, but between blue Kool-Aid packages. So I dip these. So of course, whenever you're doing any of your dyes, you just leave it in this authentic form. So you don't add sugar or anything like that. You just use leftover coffee, leftover tea bags, and I can show that in future videos. But this was blue. It came out really like a light blue. And then I did ink. This one was it was grape and I think like watermelon Kool-Aid packages. And then I dropped some, like, if you see, if I had like separate coffee, I'll just drop some splats on it so I give it that kind of texture. Yeah, this was definitely like watermelon Kool-Aid packages and cherry, so you get the feel of that. This was just a paper that I got out of a stash, I think, from Goodwill, and all I did was just dipped it into the coffee, so it gives it that little image on there. And then I get into what I do all the time, which is called like mindless creation. So I take the white paper and I just start painting it, all the paint colors that I have, and I paint the front and back. Sometimes I don't paint the back, majority of times I do. And this is where it gets really fun with how I make my creations, how I make my beautiful paper, books, journal books, all kinds of tags, just different things, little envelopes. And so I just paint, and then I mix the paint. So then this one was gold. As you can see, I didn't paint the back of it, and I've used a lot of these already, so I'll just paint using gold paint. And they actually like feel really good too. It's like, and then I mix this one with yellow and brown to give it that touch. So this was yellow and brown. I really like the way this came out and how it looks. And so I'll do this over and over again. And then this one was just like a brownish. And so I painted a few of these. This was a really dark brown. I think I used the brown paint and some black. I mixed black in it. And I used a lot of these. I made a lot of these, but as you can see, I only have one because I used them on different projects. So, and then with these, I was dipping actually this into black paint and water that I was dipping this into to get this contrast. I have to do it again and I will show it. But it's like really pretty, like from how it looks here in the front. So I did that on a lot of these, and then I have some like pretty, like a turquoise almost color here from one of the paints, and I have the paints put up, so I will do in a separate video some of the paints that are next to each one of these, but this is just merely just an intro to show you what I do with paper and create things, and I'll show examples. So this one's like a pretty blue. I'm like, this was the dark blue. And I love the way this blue looks. And then I get into some grays. I just use all the colors, the paints that I have. So then we have some grays. And there's so many fun things you can do with just making your own painted paper and, you know, creating things for gifts and gift cards and birthday cards and all kinds of stuff. So here's purple. We have some hot pink. And I think I don't know, I probably had some yellow and I didn't want to waste it. So I painted the back of that yellow. Then I got into some reds. So beautiful. I have so many ideas what I want to do with I want to create an all red book for females. I mixed this with red and brown to give it this kind of color. And so that contrast is very pretty. And then you can see they like stick, but it sticks but doesn't stick. And then this one is my favorite. I just started using red and black. And you get this kind of texture. And this is just a fun way. These are mindless activities that you can just do. And every week I am just painting paper. And of course you have to have black because you need black. Black is everything, right? So I painted some blacks and they kind of dry really quick, like, I don't know, an hour or two, they're dry. And then I just turn them over and I just paint the other side. And then here I was trying to get, this one I'm really getting into, like, if I have colors left over, I'll just start doing different things here. I made some stripes. I don't know, just something. I'll use this for something. And then here is when I really get into having different variety of colors left over. And I'll just start just adding paint, like scraping on there. And I didn't do the back. So if I want to, I can, you know, I can glue these two together. If I want, I can glue this on top of something. And I can just go at it with tons of ideas. So here's a few ideas that I've done with the paint. It's really pretty. All kinds of designs. You can just keep going with ideas. It's just nothing, even if it looks terrible, there's something I promise that you can do with it, and I will show you that in future videos. But I already folded this, so I was thinking of making this into some kind of card. So, but I didn't do the back. And sometimes I'll do the back and I'll just paint it black. It just depends. Or I won't do anything to it because I know I will put something that's like a cardstock underneath. But this just gives you a feel of how I play with the paint and leftover paint. And then I get into like these different textures and colors, and it's so pretty. And it's pretty when you actually design it and create it with something. So, and then you can see I painted black. So I do different things. Like this is so pretty. Or I'll just put it in a book and it can be like my cover of a book. Like how pretty is that if you receive something like this, a card, and it's all embellished, and it really makes you just want to stop and look at things and say, well, that's different and it's beautiful. So same thing. I had orange and I actually did both sides for this one. It just depends on my mood. So it just depends. This was actually, so I took one of my other papers and I glued it on the back because I was going to do something with this. So, and I haven't done it yet. And I just get a feel. I did the same thing. I took a different color, pop in like the pink, and put that on. We glued it on the back. And same with this one. I think I was going to make a book out of this one. I'm sure I'll do, all of these will be little books of cards. And then I make things like this where I just start making all kinds of symbols, hashtags. And I don't do it on both sides. It just depends. And little squigglies, circles with the leftover paint. And this was from the coffee dyed paint that I just had. I'll just take some of the papers and I'll just make different squiggly lines and little swirls and X's and things like that. So once I create things, I manipulate the paper, is when I really start to create things. I just want to give an example. I'll take some of my dyed paper, and if I want to make little tags for the journals or for the cards or for the books, I'll just start writing on them different little statements. I also have a book that has these statements. I mean, some sticky stickers that you can put into your crafts, but sometimes I like to do it myself. I just like to write and be creative with words, and I'll cut pieces off. You can see I cut pieces off and I'll add it to the books. So I'll just use different line papers. I just didn't finish, but this is just some ideas of what I do. I just make lines and I'll start writing things. I'll just write words. So that's an example of some things that I do with paper. Not only do I use that kind of paper, I also use and save, because I throw nothing away. So for example, these are tea bags. And these are tea bags, and I need to like really clean it off, but sometimes I like it there. It looks kind of crazy though. It's like, what's that on there? Those some bugs. But this is actually paper. So not only are we using copy paper or any kind of writing paper, this is actually a paper. This is a tea bag paper. It's really like a tissue paper. And it's already naturally dyed. And once you make your tea, you save the bags. And then once it's dry, you remove the inside and you keep this. And this will be something pretty that can go be a part of a journal or in it. And so I just wanted to give you an example of how I keep these, and how I'll show you in some video of how I actually use it and design it. So here's another example of like my coffee filters that I do not throw out. I keep all coffee filters. And I have a bag. This is an example and how this is actual paper. And you can manipulate this and you can write on it with a Sharpie. You can glue it down on paper. You can rip it up and make sayings. There's so many things you can do because this is actual paper. It's just a coffee filter paper, but everything, almost everything, is made out of some kind of paper or something that you can use. So not only do I use this, I also will Mod Podge them and glue them so they get like this little shiny look to them. And these I glued, I think, onto each other. I'm not sure, maybe just one. But I would use this. I just have an idea and I just haven't done it yet. And I will, where I just want to make a book out of these like coffee filters, or rip it up and glue it onto something. So that's another example of some things I use. Of course, I use all kinds of paper. So when you are in this space of creating, nothing gets wasted. And a lot of junk journaling creators, like I like to call ourselves, we like all kinds of paper, especially when dealing with like junk journals. You like things that are vintage, things that are old. And so we like musical books and musical notes. So we tend to buy these and then we dip it into the coffee and then we use it in our books. It can be a cover, it can be part of the page, it can be little tags, anything. And so I have a few, and I just wanted to show you that I use this. I use all kinds of paper, not just plain copy paper. In addition, I save, just want to give you an example. I save my dryer sheets. So here is a dryer sheet. These are dryer sheets. I just put them in between. And paper, what do? I paint them. And they become like this, this kind of texture. And you can do so many things with them. I have made little pockets out of this, and I'll have one. I'll come back to it to show you as an example of what I use to make this. But so I paint. If you can see, I paint all of my dryer sheets. Or I just leave them, but in most of them I have painted some so I can use for different projects and different ideas. So here's a black one. And I just put like a dryer sheet in between. And then I spray painted these. So these are spray painted. And for example, if it was like, you know, you want to take a piece and put it on top, or however you want to mesh it on there or glue it on there. But there's so many ideas, and there's so many things that, you know, we throw away and waste, and we can actually keep. So I don't throw my dry sheets away. Of course, at some point when you have too many, you have to throw stuff away. And I do that, but for the most part, these are other mindless activities that I do, and that is painting and spray painting dryer sheets. Yes, don't throw your dry sheets out. Here's another thing I do with paper. So I like the way this came out, and this is textured paper. So what I used for this was red. So I had a bowl with water in it, and I added some oil, canola oil, cooking oil, and red droplets of paint. And then I dipped it in like that, dipped it in there, and then I let it sit. And this one I crinkled up so it looks like it's gold, but it actually comes out like the paper's like really sturdy. It's depending on how much oil you have, it gives it this amazing texture. And so I've done this, and I think I used a few of these already. So I just wanted to show you some examples of how I use paint with water and oil as well. So some examples. Same with this. I had dipped, this should have been over here, but that's fine. I dipped the manila envelopes in it as well. So I did the same thing. So it was water, the oil, and black ink. And I dropped these in here. So it gave it this little texture, which is so pretty. And so lastly, I wanted to show that not only do I use the paper for my sketching, I use the manila envelopes. So as you can see, I use manila envelopes, and I can definitely do something with this. So those are some examples of, you know, how I use paper, copy paper, and paint it. I use regular paper from music notes or any kind of book that have words on them, and I dye them with coffee or tea dye, and then I keep my dryer sheets, and I use the manila envelopes. And if I have any kind of cardstock or leftover anything, I keep them, and I dip them as well, or I paint them, because these can be used for all kinds of inserts in your journals or your books. And I just don't throw anything out. I just paint them, and I keep them, and I create things with them. So those are the examples that I wanted to show how I don't waste anything. But to go back to the paper, I make out of the paper, I make these little cute and adorable folders, and I made so many of these, and I've used them. And I'll just take a piece of paper and make more. But how adorable are these? And then I sew around them. I sew the paper first. And I make these little mini envelopes. And they go in the books, into the journals. And I add these. Same with this. I'm learning how to sew, so I'm learning how to sew on paper because it just seems easier. So you'll see a lot of flaws, a lot of mistakes, but I think that is part of the process, because nothing is perfect. Even if we think it's perfect, nothing at all in life is perfect. There's a flaw somewhere. All you have to do is look closely. But I made so many of these, and I give them out as gifts, put little gift cards in them, put in your junk journal, little thank you. It's just so cutie patootie. I mean, and I have one in every color that I painted. So that's an example of some things I do. The other things to stick with the paper is I'm going to shake. I will paint paper. And so I love doing these kind of little swiggly swirls, whatever you want to call, with different colors of paper, and to see how it comes out. And I use cardstock for this one, and I just paint it, and then I'll manipulate it. For example, I'll move this out the way, and I'll make cards like this. So as you can see, I kind of like sewed around it. And I'll make little cards that have pockets, little saying this is stuff out of a book. And you just distress it with some distressed ink, add some stickers, and you just, you know, glue it to here. So I just want to show you an example of some of the things I do with how I make a bunch of these. And then what I do with it. So I have another one here. I'm actually going to start to make a book out of this one. So this is a painting that I created, that I made, and it's going to be a book. And so I put some of these in here just for as inspirations, just to remind me. But this came out of like a magazine, and all you do is rip the pages. And like I told you, I was on my sewing journey, so these are just a few pages, and you just sew around, and you can punch a hole and make a tag, but I'll do something with it inside of this eventually. Let me move this over so that you can see that I have other kinds of textured paintings that I've made. And then I think I have it, I'm not sure, I have it over here, but like with the paintings, this is a tag. I'll make a tag. I just didn't punch a hole in it. So I'll create things like this, and I'll have to punch a hole in it. So with the paintings, I also I will just paint different colors on a piece of cardstock paper, and then I make these little envelopes. And I made a few of these, and I actually use them because they're like, I can put change in them and money. And so I think they're really cute. So that's another example of some things I do with the paint. So I also use some of the off-cuttings from the paintings that I make, and I keep them. And I'll make these as like tags or little, any kind of like accessories or inserts to like any junk journals or any kind of books or a gift. You can do so many things with these. You can make borders and edges. You can do a lot of things. So I keep these as well. Also, a lot of my off-cutting, so all of the end pieces and pieces that you would typically throw away, I actually keep them. And I will just glue them, all the pieces, onto cardstock. And I'll do front or back or just the front. And I just have this clip because I'll put them on white paper. I'll put them on manila folders. And I just don't waste anything and throw them out, because these can become great kind of covers or embellishments or any kind of design that you really want to make. So I waste nothing. I create something. It's my slogan, is what I say. So that's another example of some of the things that I do with the paper. But I also use mailing, all of your mails, envelopes that come through, because inside of the mail envelopes are pretty patterns. Like, they have pretty insert, like, pages inside of it. And so I will keep all of these, the entire envelope, because I rip them up. I distress the ends and I just glue them onto cardstock, onto paper, or, you know, and create things out of this. I have an example I can show for that. So that's what I do with envelopes. I do not throw them out. I actually keep the paper too, and I may paint the paper. So there's so many things that you can do. Moving on from paper, but in the same family of paper, is these bags. I typically buy these because they're 99 cents. So you can get like the Ross bags, the all these bags, any of your like grocery or regular department stores, they always have a bag. Hobby Lobby, whatever, Burlington. And I like to use these bags and manipulate them. And with this, I'll iron it. And I can show that in a future video, where you just put parchment paper on top and the bottom. You iron it so it gets like that crinkly feel. And then I will do something with it. For this example, I actually made a cell phone purse out of it. And I put it in this bag, and I sewed the bag, as you can see, because I'm learning to sew on paper and bags. And this was something that came in, and I just kept it because I don't throw anything out. And so we keep this, and we put it to the side and save it. But what I did is I ended up making a purse that came out really cute. And I just want to show it. The chain and the purse, and then inside the purse, you know, cell phone, maybe some lip gloss, your wallet, something simple, not a lot you can keep. And I created this out of my paper, some little bedazzled jewelry, and yeah, so I tend to do this. These ideas is not just paper, where, you know, you have an idea and you see it and you want to make something beautiful out of it. And so I did that with this. And so I let my daughter use it. And I put them in this plastic bag. And I keep it, and I just put it up. So there's a few things. So we have paper, and then we have bags, and then lastly, I just want to show you some examples of some of the things I do make out of them. So this was like, if I wanted to give a gift, and I'm not done, it's just used as an example. It would be a card. I make a tag out of it. This is part of the off cuttings that I just tape, you know, on cardboard or cardstock. And I make a beautiful tag out of it. And so, and I put it in a bag, of course, that we keep. But here's an example of some of the books I make out of the painted pages. And so everything I make here is from like glue and the paper. This gives you kind of an example of how I make what I call my paper books or paper journals. And I use the papers that I showed earlier and how I incorporate them into the book. So I use washi tape, I use my painted papers and my dyed papers. And so I just wanted to flip through really quick just to give you like an example. I don't want to go through all of it because I will do separate videos for this to show exactly how I do each one of these. But I just make them and then I keep them and put them to the side. Here's another example. And I just really use all washi tape and my pages for this. They all have kind of the same thing with a different twist. Same with this. I made a second one that was identical to the first one that I showed. And I just recently did this, and it's somewhat like it's like a handheld purse journal. And this was part of some of these, for example. If you can see the correlation between of how I use that. So these are some examples of what I do with paper. First, I never get rid of any of the plastics that I receive, and I end up like sewing them, and then you can put gifts in them. So I have some, I have more. I just using these as an example. The last thing I want to show is how I use paper bags. So I keep these, of course, the Dollar Tree, Walmart's, all the bags in different colors, because you can actually make things out of them. You can iron them, like I was explaining earlier. And so what I did was I made an eyeglass case out of this bag and another white bag. I don't remember which one it was. And I put I can see on here. And you can tell I have my glasses in here. And I just think it is adorable. I just took this after I ironed it. I sewed the sides, and I leave the sayings on here. So you be like, is that Dollar General? Yes, it's Dollar General. Is that Walmart bag? Yes. And you just make fun little creative things like this. So I also made, to go along with this, was like one of my first little books. I call it like a junk journal, using the paper bags. And so you can see it's the same theme, same bags. It was Walmart, Dollar General, and I forget what this was. But I made my own first little bag. I made some little bedazzled jewelry beads to go on the side. And so I just add things in here, but I just wanted to give you an example of how I use the plastic bags, and I'll show another video in the future for that. I also made like a little side journal with some plastic bags as well. I sewed around, I ironed these, and glued it on. And yeah, so I'll make a pretty journal book or a gift or some kind of writing notebook. But there are so many amazing things you can do with paper. As you can see, I use plain paper and I paint them, and I create these wonderful and amazing ideas that come to mind, because I don't waste anything. I create something with everything I see. My mind is just on 1,000 with ideas. So I just wanted to say that if you stumbled upon this video, you know, you are my peoples, you're my tribe, and that everything we do is on the top floor, because everything on the top floor, it takes creativity, it takes time, you know, it takes mistakes, it takes flaws, and then the end result is what is presented. And I just wanted to give you some ideas of what you're in for. So put your seatbelt on. Let's enjoy this ride together. Leave some comments below and let me know what you use and how you create different things. I have an abundance of things that I haven't even shown a display, but I just wanted to start off with just paper. So stay for the ride. I appreciate all those who came. And if you're here, then of course, and if you like it, you will like it. You will like the video. So I will see you soon. I'm going to start painting and creating and doing what I do best. And so I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a good one.